Muhammad had been fighting from the first year that he could until he died, and he launched Muslims into battle such that they conquered 1/3 of the known world, and then they kept fighting. From that time until the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Muslims had a significant degree of military control throughout the world. It's really hard to say in any way that Islam is a religion of peace when we're talking about physical peace.
Now, when we talk about jihad, not really considered a violent thing, but more defending a faith. Is that correct?
In the West, that's what we were told growing up, that Muhammad only fought defensive battles. He was trying to protect the Ummah, the Muslim people. The fact is, though, when you get past the modern narratives and you start reading the text of the Quran directly, and you start reading the history of Muhammad's life directly, there's no question that's not the case. He launched raids. Even the first battle that the Muslims fought, the Battle of Badr, was a result of a raid that he launched against a caravan that Muslims fought. And so from the beginning, there's no real distinction actually in that time between offensive and defensive battles. If you have an enemy, you fight them, is basically the way people saw it. And that wasn't just Muslim, that was everyone back then. But you cannot argue that Islam conquered 1/3 of the known world defensively. That doesn't make any sense.
In your book, you also talk about jihad is a defensive move, or could be seen as a defensive move, but it has to be kind of claimed by someone in power.
There were rules of jihad that were concretized a few hundred years after Muhammad. So Muhammad didn't lay out these rules per se. After the hadith, the traditions of Muhammad's life were collected, then people systematized, codified jihad. And in that codification process, there were conditions listed. A jihad should only be launched in defense of the Muslim people or for the purposes of advancing the Islamic faith. So it doesn't have to be just defensive. And it should be launched by a leader of the Muslim people. So this is why some people argue that after the Ottoman Empire fell, you couldn't have a legitimate jihad until ISIS came, because ISIS is establishing its own caliphate. And this is why it's such a big issue across the Islamic world, whether to recognize the caliphate of ISIS or not, because if so, then they could launch officially recognized jihad. So it's actually, these rules are important. I was actually speaking to a pastor in Nigeria the other day, and he said that in his neighborhood in Jos, Nigeria, before Muslims attack, and it happens quite regularly, they will distribute pamphlets saying, "Be forewarned, we will be attacking you."
Really?
Yeah, and it's sometime within the next 2 weeks after those pamphlets come. And you ask the question, why would they do that? Because it is one of the rules of jihad. You have to tell people that they are going to be attacked.
Wow.